Good morning, guys. This is Jacob here with another episode of the Let's Get to Business podcast. So today I'm going to do something a little different. I normally, up to now, I didn't do any videos or I didn't do any video podcasts. So my plan is from now on, I'm going to try to do a video podcast. So you can look me up on YouTube also. I will actually post that link on my Facebook page at Let's Get to Business Podcast. So you can also find me. My hashtag on YouTube is at I Like Roofing because that's my roofing company name. I'm going to be sharing my podcast on there along with my other stuff. So I just want to share that with you guys. So today I got a very exciting episode to talk about, and that is the generational wealth mindset. And it's something that I've already talked about before a little bit about generational, thinking from a generational standpoint, thinking long-term or generational leadership. And I think that a lot of that stuff also applies very much in business planning and business mindset. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about in our businesses how we're setting them up. Are we setting them up for generational success, or are we, are we setting them up to be a long-term success, or are we just focusing mostly on, now? So I'm just going to start off with a couple scripture references. It says in Proverbs 13, verse 22, it says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. And that is in Proverbs 13:22. So it's talking about leaving inheritance for your children's children. Now, my question is that so many times we do put the attention in to think about long term. Like I am, being successful now so that my children's children don't have to live poor or whatever it may be. But I think there is much more in here than just your children's children. I think it is also that in our business is like, what about the guy that owns it or the guy that manages the business after me? Am I setting my business up for long-term success, or am I only setting it up for a short term? And I think it's very important that we think long-term, that we think about how we set up our companies, how we set up our assets, and how we set up our things that we have, that we set them up for the long term, that we set up for our children's children. Or we could also say in our own leadership, in our organizations, like the guy that I'm leading or the guy that I influence in the team, am I setting things up? Am I leaving him an inheritance mindset standpoint? Am I leaving him a company or a business or training? It doesn't matter what we do. Am I setting it up so that if he shares it on, that it gets passed on? I think it is a mindset of doing things in such a way that it gets passed on down into the organization. I think that's very important that we think about that. It says, the children of children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are the fathers. Now, why do I believe that this verse is important? This is from Proverbs 17, verse 6. And the reason that I believe this is so important is because when it says children's children are the crown of old men, see, I don't, as a leader in my team, as a leader in my organization, it may be as a leader or it doesn't matter what I do, I can see how well I am doing by how well the people that I teach are doing, and when they, not what they personally are doing, but what the people that they teach are doing. So if I am teaching them correctly, that means that the people that they teach are also doing it correctly. That is how I can value my own performance. If I tell them how to do something and that's where it all ends, then what's the point? No. The point is, and the reason is that we need to focus on doing things that last for a long term. Like long term is like setting it up that people who over the long term are going to continue to do it right. And I think that in our business, this is very important. If the boss says to the foreman, do it this way, that's great if the foreman does it correctly. The problem is if the foreman does not teach his people correctly, then I didn't teach the foreman correctly. See, the foreman, I can teach the foreman how to do it correctly, then he can teach the people he manages to do it correctly. Not that I can also teach the entire company how to do it correctly, but I think that is a little bit more the mindset that we need to have, is like, where are the middle managers going with it? And all right, so I think that it all reaches down to the very beginning. And I like to take things all the way back to the beginning. I believe that Genesis 1 is one of the most important books in the entire Bible. And one of the reasons why I believe so is because it is the foundation. It is the first time that God spoke to humans directly. That's when God gave them a mission, a purpose, a reason for being. And I believe that it is the foundation to all other things in the Bible. In Genesis 1, it says, "And God blessed them, God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." So I'm not going to kind of go through the entire verse. I'm just going to talk about one specific principle. And it says, "And God blessed them, God said unto them, Be fruitful." Now, if we really think about from a fruitful standpoint, from a standpoint of being fruitful, a fruitful tree is one that bears a fruit. It is fruitful. But see, the fruitfulness he's talking about, if you look back into the chapter, it talks about how he told the tree to bear seed of its kind forever after. So not only will it bear the first time, but it will continue to bear, and it will continue to bear fruit. It will bear seed that will grow up and bear more seed, and so on. And that is the mindset of a fruitful person. See, I believe that is how we need to think in our business. Like, what am I doing in my business? What am I doing to create a generational wealth in everything? If I invest money in something, like say a house, for example, I think I need to have anything that I invest in, anything that I do, I need to have the mindset of how can I get it to bear more seed? How can I bear more fruit? So, if I go and invest in a house, for example, my goal is for eventually the income coming in from that house will help me get another house. If I'm in investment, like if I invest in real estate. But if I'm the type of a guy that invests in a business, for example, if I invest in clients and I invest in relationships, then I'm hoping that if I invest in a relationship now in my company, if I invest in a relationship with a very key client now, I'm hoping that investment, not only will it pay off now, but also that investment I will get a return on, which is why it's so important to ask for referrals, because it'll tell you a lot about your relationship with your current clients. If they're willing to give you referrals, that means your current relationship is already bearing fruit. You're already doing projects. Like I'm a roofer, so that's where I'm talking from the standpoint of a roofer. Is if that guy gives me a project now, but the real value of that relationship is if that relationship also refers me to somebody else, and if that relationship after that also continues to do so. And I believe that is so extremely important that we have the mindset of how to get that going in our business, being fruitful, having that generational wealth mindset. See, everything that we do, I believe that we should figure out how to get it generational growing. It's infinite. Like if we can get it to grow exponentially, if we can get it to grow from a fruitful standpoint, like a tree, like it's a generational thing. Like if we think like that, what happens is that there's an infinite amount of business out there. We all know there's this book that was written talks about the 3 generations of wealth. And I believe that's very applicable in this case, is like the generational, like everything we do is a generational thing. So anyway, hope you guys are having an absolutely amazing day. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk with you next time.